the speakers. So I would like to introduce our first speaker for the afternoon. Our speaker is Magor Csibi from Romania, an award-winning environmental expert, head of leadership and culture practices at Trend Consult, a business consulting company in Romania. Magor Csibi has been member of the European Parliament, former executive director of WWF in Korea, and country manager and director of WWF Danube Carpathian, and he's the founder and publisher of the Think Outside the Box news platform. Magor's lecture is titled The Connection Between Human and Nature Behavior, and is made possible thanks to the generous support of the Romanian Cultural Institute in Tel Aviv and the cooperation between ECOWEEK and EUNIC Tel Aviv. So Magor, welcome, and you're welcome to share your screen.
Hello to everyone. No, I won't share with my screen. I will speak freely. First of all, talking about this topic in 15 minutes is like, you know, successfully tackling climate change. It's almost impossible. The subject is so huge that it's just impossible to cover it in 15 minutes. So I will start for the people who are in a bit of hurry, directly from the question, can this trend be reversed? And I will disappoint a lot of people. No, the trend cannot be reversed. Unfortunately, we cannot unkill animals, we cannot undestroy habitats, and we cannot undo the damage what is already been done. It's a little bit like, you know, the COVID crisis right now that we are going through. Everybody thinks about how can we go back to normal, and we need to realize that the normality of tomorrow is up to what we do today and what we do every day. And the whole idea is that if we cannot reverse the trend, then what we can do? Right now, as we see and the data is saying to us, we are in a new era, the era of Anthropocene. What does it mean? Either we like it or not, our activity, the human's activity on Earth, affected more than 75% of the land surface. And also, this new era means that the human activity has a long-standing impact on the world and on Earth as it is. So we can call it as a new geological era. We just started the 6th mass extinction, called the Holocene extinction. It means that in the last couple of years, we lost a lot of species around us. And the whole idea is, even if the 6th mass extinction is going and the Anthropocene started, what we don't know right now is our species, and this is the only open question for us humans, if our species will be one of the species which will go extinct or not. And I do think that this is the question that we are right now debating. Do we want to preserve our species or not? Do we want to have a future as humans on this planet or not? And this is the only question that we can actually answer it. And if we are looking at the data, you already mentioned, and other speakers today mentioned, the data is not looking good as well. If we are looking, for instance, at the Living Planet report, which is done by the WWF every 2 years, we can see that in the last 47 years, we lost 68% of the animals and the species on this planet. What does it mean? Just think about it, 68%. And if we are looking into more exact numbers, if we look at freshwater species, so all the species that live in freshwaters, rivers and lakes around the world, 84% of those species already disappeared. It means, you know, if you look from 5 species, 4 already is gone. If we can reverse that, I do not think that. So how can it look tomorrow? What can it happen? And you know, I can personally say it's very hard for us normal people to relate to those numbers. If I am thinking about what does it mean 68% of the species, what does it mean 84% of the freshwater species, doesn't tell me anything. I was in Korea, and this was, you know, already I was working for more than 10 years on the topic of sustainability. I was working with wild species. I was working on very crucial environmental issues. And I had the opportunity to go on the field to a necropsy of marine turtles. In the southern part of Korea, there is an island called Jeju, and every periodically some marine turtles wash on the shore. So we had one of the lead scientists who was able to lead the necropsies to see what is the cause of that. So we went there as a team. And when we started to open the turtles, what was shocking for me is to see the plastic, the amount of plastic in each of the turtle, you know. And it's one thing to see a video on YouTube. It's another thing to see or to hear statistics. But when you see turtle after turtle after turtle filled with plastic, it just changes your whole view on the world, even if you already knew all the data. And I can tell you 70% of the turtles that we actually dealt with, 70%, the cause of death was caused by plastic in the oceans. And imagine that 70% of this planet is water. We are living on less than 15% on this planet, and still we are able to pollute oceans and the water surface so decisively that turtles every day and marine species every day are dying because of our activity. And this is not something that somebody else should deal with. It's not the UN's job. It's not the government's job. It's up to what we are doing every day as humans. And again, we are very optimistic when we are saying that we will change because, you know, that the circumstances are changing and so on. One day we will wake up. I was investigating or looking as a reporter the Aral Sea, which was the fourth biggest freshwater lake in the world. And when I was asking people who actually have seen the huge lake, because the lake is not anymore there, and I was asking them, tell me about the tragedy, they were asking me, what tragedy? They already forgot that they had a lake, they had fresh water, they had a different life. And they were asking me, what tragedy? They were not perceiving already what kind of disaster right next to them. And this is one of the big problems with with our species, is that our adaptability is so huge that we are able to go through almost the biggest challenges, the biggest shocks. And if we are looking what is happening around now, again, another Korean example. One of the reasons I left Korea, but I really love the country, I love the culture, I love the people, I love my work there. One of the reasons I left was because out of the 365 days of a year, 66 was not breathable in Seoul, in the city I was living in, without a mask. Now it's everybody talking about wearing masks, how hard it is to wear masks and so on. In Seoul, it was not an option. Either if you didn't wear a mask outside, you are not able to breathe properly and you are not able to preserve your health. And I was always thinking about this. If we are not able to change our behavior in the moment when we do not have fresh water and fresh air anymore, in the moment when we cannot breathe, which is one of the basic functions for survival, it's really hard to understand how will we able to answer some challenges which are much bigger than us. And I do think that one of the most important things is, instead of talking, we need to act. And this is not about governmental level. This is not about global level. You know, we also tend to think and tend to talk a lot about this issue. And we have this tendency of splitting the world in two and saying, okay, on one side, we are the good guys. We are the ones who are aware what is happening. And we are the ones who are doing whatever needs to be done. And there are the bad guys, the other guys, the ignorant guys who have no idea what is happening, or they know and they don't want to act, or they deny, and so on and so on. And I do think that this kind of way of looking at the world, this kind of defense mechanism that we are applying, this kind of simplification of the world, making us to stay in the situation that we are right now. We cannot split the world into two, because either we are the good guys or the bad guys. The planet is degrading. And this is not about, you know, talking and preaching to others what they should be doing. I do think that when we are looking at the environmental movement on Earth, one of the biggest problems that we are not moving forward is because we tend to speak much more that we act. And you look at organizations who are talking about responsibility, reducing consumption, reducing impact, and they are not reducing their own impact. We are looking at environmental leaders who are preaching about what others should do. But you look at their impact and they are not doing their part. And this way, it's really hard for most of the people to understand why is the urgency so big when the most important, most relevant voices are actually don't show in their behavior how serious the situation it is. And I do think that this is one of the cornerstones of walking the talk, of doing as we preach. And when this will start to happen, I do think that we will see some changes. Also, it's not just at the individual level, it's systemic level. 2 weeks ago in the European Parliament, Ursula von der Leyen said, the pandemic, and this is a good thing, the pandemic showed the limits of a system which puts wealth before well-being. Just think on this issue. We put wealth before of well-being. And together with Club Romania, we tried somehow to tackle the topic of well-being right now. And we came up with this book. I can show it here. This is a 2,000-page book, actually 2 volumes, trying to cover what we need to do in Romania in order to ensure well-being for the citizens. And then compare it, this kind of volume, this amount of policies that we need in order to live well, compare it to the system that we have right now. Somehow, at some point, we decided that the only indicator we are interested in is the gross domestic product and the production per capita. And if you know the gross domestic product of a country and the production per capita, then we already know how the country performs. We already can say if the people are good or bad inside, feeling good or feeling bad inside of a system. And this is actually not true. Until we will continue to show, to look at the world in such a simplistic view, we will have no chance to change this system. And fortunately, we already started to change. We already started to see. But again, we need to think, and this is not just, again, at very high level. In our jobs, in our daily life, we need to somehow conceptualize, we need to think about what is the difference between well-being, actually feeling good with ourselves, feeling good in our skin, feeling good with life, feeling good with our environment, and wealth, because wealth is just one very, very small element in this system. We cannot repair nature. We cannot undo the damage. We can make sure that some species doesn't disappear. We can bring some species on the brink of extinction back. But again, the system works by itself. We also cannot destroy our planet. Or probably we can, but I hope we won't. And also the total extinction is not possible. We just need to make sure that it's not happening for us. And for this, we should somehow moderate our positivism and our optimism. One of the things which is very confusing to most of the people when we are talking about climate change, when we are talking about the changes that happen in nature, we are always finishing, most of the organization, most of the people are finishing that, okay, but the situation can be undone if we act fast and so on and so on. And this is very not concrete and very optimistic. So we somehow need to understand what is the gravity of the situation. Just one very clear example, which applies to almost everyone who is listening right now, is tuna. Tuna will disappear from the Indian Ocean in less than 5 years and will disappear globally, most probably in the next 15 years. What does it mean? Now, if you walk out from this discussion and you go to any shop, doesn't matter if you are in Israel, in Greece, in Romania, in Brazil, or wherever you are, probably you will find canned tuna. It's one of our basic foods. In 5 years' time, we will have much less of it. And in 15 years' time, we might not have at all. Just think about what kind of implication, what is the real gravity of the situation, and how can we tackle that? If we are not able to change behaviors, the chance in order to see a different world, it's very, very slim. But for that, we shouldn't be optimistic all the time. We should be realistically cautious. We should be not just talking about that what needs to be done at the global level. We always need to point out what do we need to do as individuals in order to solve this situation. Of course, that we are afraid many of the systems will fail. If we start to change, for instance, our worldview, and go from wealth to well-being, at that moment, many institutions will be pointless in our society. Many people won't know what to do, how to act. But again, these are the costs that we need somehow to do. We need to redefine our KPIs. I do think that splitting the world in two, as I said, is one of the things that we define, that it will define our answer. And at the moment that we realize that we are not individuals in this battle, because most of the time when you look what is happening around you, there are huge systemic things. It's how do you change the political system? How do you change the social system? How do you change nature? How do you view habitats, ecosystems? Most of the people have no knowledge about how an ecosystem or habitat is working. This kind of knowledge can be very, very overwhelming, but the whole idea is that it's not about awareness, it's not about data. It's about how do we act. And most of the people is saying exactly that I do not know the data, I do not know how to act, I do not know what to do as an individual. But we are not individuals here. Because somehow the whole idea is that as we don't need to convince every human being on this earth to care about nature. We just need to convince people to care about others. I do think that we have a very individualistic approach when most of the people is afraid somehow that your life can be impacted in a negative way, and most probably it will be. If not by the measures that we are taking in order to tackle climate change, then you will your quality of life will go down because of what is happening in nature. But the whole idea is that we are in this together. And at the moment that you won't look only at nature, but you realize that I live in a community, I live in a city. What can I do as an individual in order to change the well-being of my community? What can I do to be more aware of what is happening with me, what is happening around me? And at that moment, when we realize that the main focus should not be our individual selves, but our community, at the moment that we realize that the most important thing is how can we tackle together the whole issue, then it can change the system. And then we can look at what kind of political systems can we build? And this here we actually have the power in order to change political systems. What kind of pressure do we want to put on our politicians, on our public institutions? Then we can look at our own lives. Am I doing enough in order to tackle climate change? Am I doing enough to change what is happening around me? And not least, we always look at others to lead. You know, you look at the president of the EC, you look at the Secretary General of the United Nations, you look at the environmental organizational leaders, and so on and so on. But this is about individual leadership. Every human being, everybody who is listening to me right now in this moment is influencing some people around him. At the moment that you decide to own your decisions, in the moment that you decide to own your life, in the moment that you decide to own this issue, you will be surprised that the behaviors of the people around you will also start to change. And this is about culture, because culture means how do we act in a society when nobody looks at us, when we get used to be responsible when nobody watches us, when we get used to do the right thing, when we don't get any kind of acknowledgement, any kind of thanks, culture will change. And when you do these things, all the people that following you, all the people that look at you will also start to change. So I do think that the most important thing and the only thing what we actually can influence is what are we as individuals doing every day, and then what are we doing every day in order that this system, which puts wealth before well-being, to be changed. And I do think that both things are somehow within sight, both things are within our powers. It's just up to us if we want to live up to this moment or not. But the change will not come from above. I do think that change will start and can only come from the grassroots level. And I do not think that policies, regulations, procedures will change this thing, because when I looked at those marine turtles in South Korea, it was not a government, it was not an international organization, it was not an NGO, but simple individuals, simple human beings who used all that plastic which ended up in the ocean. And we need to realize that, we need to own that, and we need to remember that we can go down as individuals, or maybe we can solve a huge problem together as a team, as a community. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Magor. It was really powerful. I mean, the way you stated, and I think it's also very relevant, because I think COVID has really stretched or stressed a lot of the problems that the old system has, and what you're saying about the next day is already not the day that we were before March. Already everything is changing. Even businesses, in a way, when a closure has to take place, like a lockdown, businesses are categorized between businesses which are needed and businesses which are not needed. So this could even almost pose as an opportunity of starting to understand how our economy works and what do we really need in our economy, and then say, okay, the businesses which are not essential, maybe we can reframe them and look at them in a different way. Maybe they can do something else which is useful and become useful in the society. So my question is the changes that COVID-19 has forced upon societies. Do you see this as maybe as an opportunity in disguise, and more, and not as a crisis as it's been called?
It's very hard to see something, some events when many people die, you know, as an opportunity. But what I look, when I look at this crisis, when I look at the economical crisis between 2007 and 2010, what I do see, we did many things what we are preaching when we are doing good. So we were talking for a lot of years. I was in the European Parliament, vice president of the environmental committee, and we were working on a lot of environmental legislation which was never implemented since then. And in the economical crisis, the actual pollution levels and the consumption levels went down, which somehow indicated that the policies are working, but those policies were never implemented. And right now with the COVID, we see exactly the same thing. You know, if we look at the World Overshoot Day, which means that what is the benchmark moment in a year when humanity used all the resources that the planet can generate for a year, this year was later than last year. So it means that COVID made us to consume less and to pollute less. But the problem is with the human brain. Most of the humans, we are very proud species, and we do think that most of our actions are conscious. But we actually, if we go into behavior and we study a bit human behavior, we will see that between 40 and 80% of our actions are automatic. So only between 20 and 40% of what we are actually doing every day is conscious. And I do think that we could use this period in order to make sure that we are not going back to the automatic behaviors that we had before. We already have seen a very, very strong statement I've seen in front of the European Parliament, because I've never seen a very high-ranked official, a very high-ranked politician to say this comparison between well-being and wealth. Where do we go from there? This is the issue. And I do think that if there is one takeaway from what is happening, because COVID is far from over, we are staying a lot in our houses. We have more time to think. Use those thinking time in order to realize what are those automatic behaviors of yours, what are the automatic behaviors of your community which are actually harming natures, what are the automatic behavior of the economists around you, of the companies around you, of the government and institutions around you, which we don't even know why we are doing it anymore, but we are still doing it. And try to change those little by little, step by step, and then we can have a real change. And right now, I do think at individual level, COVID can help us to see how many useless things do we have in our lives. If you look at the retail, the fashion retail industry, you can see that it's absolutely going down. And this is not because we don't need clothes. We don't need useless clothes. Useless clothes. We generated the clothing industry, which gives us very low quality fashion items, which after a few weeks are not wearable anymore. Just if we will have this kind of outcome, you know, that kind of industry goes down, other kind of industries go down and go towards a more sustainable trend. Because if you look, for instance, at the behavior of the consumers in the United States, the brands which are producing less branded and more sustainable, more durable clothing items are actually having right now economic gain. So right now, I do think that we have an opportunity to change trends, but we also have a very, very strong incentive, or somehow this is how we are built, to go back to the automatic behaviors which already made us to arrive here.
Right. Thank you, Magor. I actually have another question, but it has to be really short because we are really over time. The question is from, okay, actually we had two questions. The first that came in was from Andrea, and that's how can you fight social pressure and political denial when it comes to inflicting change on the environmental view of people?
This is, you know, when I was in the European Parliament, environment was not really a topic. Most colleagues of mine said, okay, and when do you start to deal with more serious issues? Right now, the difference between, 10 years ago and right now is that people started to really be concerned. If you do go to California, for instance, you will see how pressing is this matter. And I do think that it will be more and more pressing. Now, I do think that there is no contradiction between sustainability and social policies. I do think if we put well-being into the core of our approach, everybody will benefit. And I do think that everybody from us, every individual, has a much higher power than we can imagine in order to influence politicians. I do not know how is it in other countries, because I was not really interacting with politicians from other countries. But here, politicians which are not used to be contacted directly by people to talk about issues, when you start to bug them and ask them, how do you vote on this, how do you vote on that, what are you doing, and what is your plan? At that moment, their behavior starts to change, and their thinking starts to shift a bit, because they know that they need to find some answers to questions which are important to the people. So I do think that the shift is possible, but again, for this, we need a shift in how we consume things, what kind of things we buy, what kind of things we use every day, because otherwise the market will make his own rules.
Thank you, Magor. Well, I think what you're saying is very clear, and maybe we can put it even more bluntly. If people stop buying Coca-Cola because it's using up the water in India and not giving people enough water to have their crops grown, then Coca-Cola will close. It's that simple. It's
Elias,
up to us.
it's funny that you said that, because my online newspaper, which was mostly based on environmental issues, was one moment brought down by Coca-Cola because we were started to write about, put articles about what is the actual impact of them, and it was a very big scandal back then in Romania. So yes, sometimes you need to tackle companies, sometimes you need to name things, because what is one of the biggest problems of our days, that we are too kind and we do not name things as they are, and we are kinder than we should be. And sometimes, you know, I'm not saying it's not unconstructive manner, but sometimes we need to say that some industries are actually doing more harm than good, some behaviors are doing more harm than good, and at some point we need to put the question, do we need those things in our life or not? And I'm not talking about companies specifically, I'm not talking about anything. Yes, I'm just saying that we need to say, and we need to have the courage in order to ask, is this normal what is happening around us?
Thank you, Magor. Actually, you've got a nice compliment from, I think it's coming from Martin, that you're really inspiring, and he's smiling. So it's coming from Martin, the male Greta Thunberg.
No, he's one of the first leaders who is actually living what she's doing. And this is why I do think that she's a game changer.
Yes, absolutely. So really, I mean, I think we could keep on going with this discussion. We have more questions came in, but we have to stop and really thank you, Magor, for the really inspiring and motivating lecture that you gave us in the discussion. And we hope to have you again to ECOWEEK so we can continue this dialogue. I think it was amazing. So thank you very much. I'd like to invite Martin Salmon, who to share his thoughts. Martin is the director of the Romanian Cultural Institute of Tel Aviv, and he held the presidency of the EUNIC Cluster Israel. And I would like to say that now you've passed on the presidency to our friend Arno Mitterdorfer, who's the director of the Austrian Cultural Forum, and who has been also a partner of ECOWEEK for several years. And I'll take the opportunity to thank Martin for the leadership, and Andrea, his assistant, for initiating and coordinating the collaboration that we had between ECOWEEK and EUNIC. I hope, first of all, that you're happy with the collaboration, with the result, with the I don't know, the variety of lectures that we had, which I think was amazing. And I would like you to share your thoughts, your conclusions, your, I don't know, questions you may have, please.
Yes. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Elias. I want, first of all, to congratulate on this first day's successful day of ECOWEEK, of 15th ECOWEEK, and of course to wish many years from now for ECOWEEK. Chronia Pola, Mazel Tov, ECOWEEK. Congratulations to Elias, to Despina, to all the excellent stuff that you have there. I have to confess that I have a feeling of déjà vu when I see these names of many Greek names, mainly, right, in the audience, and yes, that's why I'm saying this. It's because my previous post was in Greece, my previous diplomatic post in Thessaloniki. I was very interested also of the lectures about Kalamaria. I used to live there, and about the situation in Greece. So thank you very much for bringing me back to my previous post, and I spent excellent times there. Regarding the panel, EUNIC ECOWEEK panels today. I don't know much about ecology, and I don't know more than anybody else, any regular person knows about it, that it's a good thing. It's something that we should care about, but we don't actually put much effort in it. But I admire very much those people who are volunteering, who are putting effort, who are professionals in this field, and as I knew the team which organizes ECOWEEK and Elias, I have to say they are fantastic people, and this is something that makes a change, even if it's a very small change. But if we do each of us a little bit in this direction, it can make a difference. I was listening to the speakers on behalf of the member countries of EUNIC cluster in Tel Aviv. We had great presentations and multidisciplinary presentations from different fields, from the wildlife preservation, Magor from Romania and from Czechia, of course, to others who were professionals in architecture or I don't know, design or composed. And from Hungary, I saw two interesting presentations. From Poland, the last one, I was, even if it was a marathon, I was admiring also others who were persisting, holding on after 6 or 7, maybe 7 or 8 hours. We still have 50 something participants in Zoom, and another 20, 30 on YouTube Live. That's something. After 8 hours, I mean, it didn't decrease during the day. I saw that it means that people doesn't just enter randomly and then they leave after 3 seconds. You know that in social media, the average time people spends on one post, on video post, is 3 seconds. And here the same people spend 8 hours on the same video. I'm simply astonished. I just want to say that EUNIC, the Tel Aviv EUNIC cluster, that we are 14 countries in this cluster, and 8, I believe 8 were participating in the ECOWEEK project in this panels. EUNIC means European Union National Institutions for Culture, and this is a network that comprises European Union member countries, European Union member countries, diplomatic representations in certain countries, and the network, one of the main components of the activity of EUNIC is also social activism, and this is one of the main components, and mainly in Israel, in Tel Aviv, where we work, this is an important part of our work. And of course, we have also cultural artistic projects that we organize together inside the EUNIC cluster in Tel Aviv, but also social projects are very important, like these panels in ECOWEEK Israel that we participated. I have to say that 1 year ago, the Romanian Culture Institute that I lead was already in a very successful project with ECOWEEK Israel in the 2019 edition. It wasn't online yet, of course. It was organized physically, and we were very satisfied of that organization. So after we took over the presidency of the cluster, we decided to try to convince our colleagues from the cluster that it was to do it, and now that it is online, we could do it, and we had a lot of interesting lectures from those participating countries. So what I just want to say again, thank you, and keep up the good work, and good luck for tomorrow and for day after tomorrow for the workshops, Sinharitiria, Faristopolis. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Martin. Thank you, and thank you for the collaboration, and thank you for initiating this connection with EUNIC. And we hope to continue. You know, it's just a start.
It's a start of a beautiful friendship.
Of course. Thank you.